kick off, Dan?
I just gave a really profound 2-minute intro to my muted phone.
Oh, okay.
So,
you want to start over?
Yeah, I will. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
But I just wanted to say that, yeah, I did want to kick off this meeting. This is our third Monday meeting, which is more friendly for Pacific and European time. So really appreciate Taylor getting up at 6 a.m. and it's 7 for me. And the main thing on the white paper front is that we have locked down the prologue paper and are now just trying to finalize the operators that are going to be the official co-authors of it, although we will, of course, be crediting everyone for their contributions to it. And then we have kicked off a second white paper that is based on this conformance test suite process that walks through some of the ideas for the test suite and how we went about that process. And so I think the main area, I definitely would like to get that update from Taylor on how the test suite is going, and then would love to talk about the CNTT meetings occurring virtually this week and the process there and how we might connect. So
sorry, a bit back to the white papers, if possible. So, so what is the plan with these let's say 2 original white papers which were created? So there was one which was created even before the tag, and that's like parts of it currently in a repo in the Wool Corps GitHub account, and there is the other white paper which was agreed by the tag, and that's sitting in some Google Docs somewhere. So
yeah, Gergely, could you paste in the URLs for that? I don't have an answer for you off the top of my head, but we are open. The answer is basically that we are open now to publishing other white papers in parallel. We just wanted to get the prologue one out first.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But and after that, that was the question, because you mentioned the
right. Well, I was looking to have this CNF conformance because that is a main focus of the work, but we can also pursue other tracks in parallel. So if there's, are you one of the authors of the ones you're referring to?
I'm one of the authors of the tag white paper as the member of the tag.
Right. No, I meant, yeah, if you want to paste in the other ones you're referring to, I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah, I will. I'm looking for it in
okay.
Google
we can come back to it. But why don't I hand it off to Taylor now? But Gergely, as we say in the parliamentary procedure, your time is reserved. We can come back and discuss it shortly.
Okay, cool.
Taylor?
Yes. I added a couple of notes, and Gergely, if you want to paste the link into the Google Doc.
Yeah, okay, working on it.
All right. So on the CNF conformance, and I can give a link directly into that. The CNF conformance, there's now 2 parallel, I guess, testing efforts that are happening in the same conformance suite. One is focused on the workload testing, and CNFs specifically having it ready for testing the CNF microservices like a VDNS or an IP forwarder, the different pieces and the cloud native aspects on that. And another portion is focused on testing platform, the platform itself, the categories. I posted a link to the main page on the README. Those categories are primarily the same, and we're working on a test category page which is, give a link here as well. That's more extensive view of what those categories are and what they're about, the type of test. So we're looking at having a similar page. I guess I could share my screen here. So on stateless, security, scalability, there will be something similar to this for the platform. And many of these parallel what's seen in the CNTT overview for the reference architecture 2 on the different expected areas for a platform to cover. Resiliency and some other ones would be potentially some that would have on here. As part of this effort for the platform side, we're mapping the coverage from Kubernetes conformance. So if you're running a certified Kubernetes cluster, then what test will already cover many of the, specifically the cloud native aspects of CNTT's needs for a platform or operator and vendor, what they're looking at. And we're also looking at mapping other Kubernetes end-to-end tests that would go beyond the conformance test, which there's extensive integration test coverage with a lot of that mapping directly to what would be seen in the CNTT requirements. Part of that can be seen in our effort with CNTT on mapping all of these. So this is something on, if you're part of the reference architecture and reference implementation meetings on CNTT, we've been doing collaboration directly on those and mapping out the actual requirements and where they tie, which you'll see here is CNTT priorities on how the requirements are seen from an overall operator perspective, and then if they're going to match with, is this in scope for cloud native? So a lot of the efforts are to see where the efforts can be complementary on different requirements. And then at the same time, we have the effort for the overall usage and usability for testing, using the testing, which will apply for both the platform as well as the workload. Right now, most of the usability, if anyone wants to come in and test this, is going to be focused on the workload because that's further along. That was started first. I'm going to paste that into the Zoom chat as well. And this walks through, if you would like to try out and use the CNF Conformance Suite, then this is a quick walkthrough of what you're needing, including the prereqs. So expected to have access to some Kubernetes cluster. There's further documentation if you want to quickly get started and may not have access, but if you have a cluster that you want to test on, what you need and how to bring down a version of the Conformance Suite or installing from source, configuring it to test on a specific CNF, including some example configurations, and the simple way of running the test and getting the results. So that's the main part on the workload. There is a example of a scoring for this, which would be anywhere from you aren't using good practices to you're doing better or moving towards what we could think of maybe as a gold CNF. But right now it's more focused on relating it to what seems to be very important from cloud native. A lot of those would match up with the CNTT requirements for stuff like must and should, although some of them may be a must from a cloud native and a recommended from CNTT. So that's in the works from the conformance side. I think that gives a pretty good overview though, Dan, and unless you want to point out anything specific, I'll leave it open for some questions. Maybe point out if folks didn't see it, Dan posted the slide deck, which gives an overview of the conformance suite and Zoom as well. Any questions? I hope I wasn't on mute for that.
No.
Yeah, it looked good to me. Was there a question? I think maybe we should transition there and spend a few minutes talking about the integration with CNTT and what's likely to happen there this week.
Sure. I don't know if Gergely or anyone else here that can speak a little bit specific on all the topics, but as far as the work from the conformance side and CNTT, trying to help with both the RI, so the implementation side for a lab, and that overlaps with the CNF testbed initiative as well, which is being used as one of the ways to bring up a example cluster and environment for the conformance testing, and as well as example CNFs, which are going into being tested by the conformance suite. So the implementation and then the feedback and updates to the reference architecture to help broaden, I guess, the availability to use different options and for the implementation. So directly helping on those, and there's several talks about that from the implementation architecture and then the new reference certification work stream on CNTT, so directly involved in those, on seeing where the cloud native aspects can impact that or have a help.
Yes.
There's a lot of other topics. Go ahead, Gergely.
Yeah. So just to schedule-wise, the Kubernetes-related reference architecture session is on day 2, which is on Wednesday, starting from 11:15 UTC. So that's the reference architecture 2 deep dive, and that lasts until 1 o'clock UTC. And then from 1:30 we will have the reference implementation deep dive until 2:30. So this is the part what Taylor mentioned, which potentially reuses CNF testbed. What is not clear for me, but maybe it will be discussed in the session, like how is it possible to integrate with the OpenFE toolset CNF testbed, because somehow those tools are providing the framework for the CI. But maybe it's just my technical knowledge is not deep enough for that. And then from 2:30, so right after the RI2 meeting. There is an RC2 meeting, which is about the conformance testing. So all of this is in 22nd of April. And in 23rd, so on Thursday from 11 o'clock, we have the continuation of the conformance discussion until noon UTC. So I think these are the most important sessions from cloud native / Kubernetes point of view in the CNTT virtual meeting, which is happening in this week. I can post the schedule to the Google Docs. However, now the title tells that it's deprecated, but I think that still this is the best source of information. And I do not know why is it mentioned as deprecated.
I posted the link in Zoom as well. There is a main front page before the Zoom. I'm sorry, before the deprecated schedule page. Tom, do you know if there's a new schedule page, or Bill or anyone else?
No, I'm slightly confused about why it's been deprecated, but there doesn't seem to be a replacement.
I think it's because of the team up. So somebody created a team up calendar for this, which the exact copy of the current schedule without the links to the Etherpads and the PowerPoints.
Yeah,
So
I don't think it's actually deprecated. I think it's still the same.
But I will write a mail about this to the CNTT lab list, just to clarify it.
I think to add to what you said, Gergely, the bit I find I think is most useful to the communities as a whole is the bit that Taylor shared. So the most kind of obvious link between the two activities is with the RC2 workstream that Bill's just set up within CNTT and CNF conformance. But I think the requirements analysis that is pulling out the requirements, whether they're principles or requirements or specifications from the reference model and RA2, will essentially give a really, really good structure to what it is we need to test within RC2, and therefore what we need to deploy to be able to test in RI2. So that's how, I almost feel like we need to start working backwards from the definition of the tests now, rather than working from the reference model, which is relatively stable now.
Yeah, so RC2 will be kicking off this week, and it'd be great to have people join that to help get feedback from the wider community.
Hello.
Hello.
Taylor, did you want to jump in here? Do we have other agenda items?
I don't see anything else here, so if no one has any other specific topics, I think we're covered at least on this. I don't know if we need to circle back to anything on the white paper or if we covered all those. I see links have been added, so.
Yes, I added the links.
So Gergely, I'll get back to you on my recommendation for those other white papers.
Okay.
And the path forward. And I'll look forward to talking to you on the CNTT meetings this week.
Sure.
I guess one question is, where is the CNF conformance white paper? Is that going to be in GitHub again, or is it going to start as a Google Doc? Or where are people thinking about putting that?
It's on GitHub, and we're going to be publishing it as a PDF in the coming weeks, and it'll be on the CNCF website. But we basically locked down the draft of the prologue. But the answer is that these things start as a Google Doc and then move to GitHub and then get published as a PDF. Maybe Taylor could paste in the GitHub one for the prologue white paper.
Sorry, I meant for the CNF conformance one, not the prologue.
Yeah, and that will be a Google Doc, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, I hope everybody is staying safe in your isolation. Do appreciate everyone joining in from many different time zones. And we'll look forward to catching you in the CNTT meetings later this week. Thanks very much for the call.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, bye.